Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook.
All right, thanks a lot, Megan, and thank you for tuning into Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook. We have a lot of things to talk about, so get on the line right now, 412-575-2600 on a special New Year's Day edition of the Nightly Sports Call. I'm with Tim Benz. He's alongside me right now. We have a lot of things to talk about. One of the two things I want to talk about tonight, Ben Roethlisberger and his future. Tim, you wrote something about that today. I think he has a future for about 2 years, but the one thing that worries me, when you get to a certain age and certain position, there's a drop-off like that. You see it with running backs, you see it with wide receivers, not so much with quarterbacks, but that's what worries me about Ben Roethlisberger. Did he hit that point where all of a sudden he's just a really bad quarterback?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a reason to believe that right now. I think that you've seen other quarterbacks who are going to go to the Hall of Fame have more significant injuries, well, granted, earlier in their careers, but come back from them. Peyton Manning certainly did, as did Drew Brees, Tom Brady. So let's see how Ben comes back before we write him off. I don't think everything can be fixed by Ben Roethlisberger's return. I think there's kind of this sweeping belief that Ben's going to come back and make everything better, and I think that Mike Tomlin has fed into that in the sense that he's constantly talking about, when people ask about the running backs, well, they'd be helped if Ben Roethlisberger was in the game because then the box wouldn't be as stacked. The offensive line didn't have as good of a year. People ask Tomlin about that. What does he say? Well, when you've got a veteran quarterback there to slide protections, he'll make things all better. Wide receivers, well, if you've got a veteran quarterback getting the ball in the right spot at the right time, that will aid them in their production. That's all true, but he can't make Benny Snell faster. He can't make James Washington taller. He can't make James Conner and Vance McDonald healthy. And he can't make the offensive line younger. Also, he can't be his own backup. That has to be taken into consideration as well. The guy can't be his own backup, so we have to be concerned if Ben should go down again. Is Mason Rudolph really the guy to be the backup? And Mike Tomlin said on Tuesday that he's got faith in him. I'm glad somebody has to.
Yeah, you know what? But I do. I have faith in him. I mean, he was a rookie. He played in a handful of games. It was his first taste of the NFL. But the one thing Ben can do is call plays. So do you think that would be a potential change? I mean, Tomlin mentioned that maybe making a change with the coaching staff. That's part of the league, the part of the business. Do you make a change at offensive coordinator, or do you stick with what you got right now?
No, I don't think they're going to make a change at either coordinator position. I think you might see a position coach or two leave, some maybe on their own for other greener pastures, but I don't think you're going to see a coordinator change. It's my opinion that within that building, they saw anything after week 2 and the trade of Minkah Fitzpatrick that got them to 500 or into the playoffs as a major bonus. And they see the failures to get into the postseason from 8-8 to 10-6 strictly on the fact that Roethlisberger wasn't there. I don't think they're going to change either coordinator.
All right, I'd like to continue this conversation, so give us a call, 412-575-2600. I also like to talk about what do the Penguins do right now, Tim. You got a big hole there, a $6 million hole, scoring hole, with Jake Gensel not being up there on that top line or even a top 6 forward. You need that right now. So do you go out and make a deal? What do you do?
I do, yeah, because all the other injuries that they've had, it's strange to say this, and I'm not saying that Jake Gensel is a better player than Sidney Crosby or of getting Malkin by any stretch, but if you lose Sid, you have Gino step up and be the #1 center. If Gino goes out, Sid can elevate his game, but they don't have anybody that replicates Gensel. And Gensel has the ability to play with Sid or Gino. Gensel has 20 goals right now, coming off of 40 last year. There's nobody else to replicate what he does. There's nobody else to help either in front on the power play, or they can move him to other places on the power play if need be as well. The only other winger that they've got right now that's scoring is Brian Rust. So if you leave Rust with Malkin, then who do you put back with Sidney Crosby? Patrick Hornquist, who, how long can you expect him to be on the ice? And Sid doesn't seem to want to play with him all that much at even strength. So, yeah, I think of all the injuries that they've had, the issues that they've had, this one screams to me, you've got to make a trade to replace Gensel because there's nobody else in the pipeline and there's no other way to move the pieces around the chessboard without making a deal to bring in something to supplement that scoring.
All right, we're going to take a break right now, but I do want to hear who you would trade and how they would get that done coming up after the break. Give us a call, 412-575-2600, right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook.
The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, celebrating 25 years as Pittsburgh's #1 home exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters, where honesty and integrity still matter.